seeing that how perplexity, which is uh, AI, it's every other big company has invested in this. So do you think these guys will probably replace Google?
Marketing that's essentially happens. So that's also kind of getting broadened with or augmented with AI, right? So not every video is kind of actually recorded by, it need not be recorded by you, right, as a person, but you could have your virtual, you could have your.
Why OpenAI cannot be trusted? Do you see a possibility of AI coming into your washing machine, or let's say your dishwasher or things like that? Maybe uh, robotics, AI, and Gen AI. Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Pace Wisdom's YouTube channel. From the last couple of episodes, we've been talking about multiple AI trends, and today we are going to look at different AI news articles, trends that have been there in the industry, and where the AI is headed. And for this, I have two guests with me. One is very own friend Atul from Buckle Consult.
Hi, guys. Oh, thank you for the cue.
Along with Atul, I have my co-founder from Pace Wisdom, Mohan. Today we're going to relax and only see some content. You guys can see the screen that we are going to comment on some of the latest AI trends. So what our research team and BA team has done is like looking around for some good content on the AI trends in the last couple of months and where the AI, especially the Gen AI, is headed. And we're going to look at these and give our commentary or our views on these trends. Shall we get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
So here we go. Here's our first link. It says, "What's the future of AI?" Let me just get into the article itself. And here's the article. It says, "What's the future of AI? AI is here to stay to come out compete and future of organization." Now, this is an article by McKinsey, right? And
Right.
I think whenever we talk about any business consulting house like McKinsey or the BCGs or Deloitte, they always come up with some fancy numbers, right? So
Yeah.
they're saying that currently about 60 countries have strategies, national strategies about using AI. It says they have made a study like 2300 will be the year where AI will capabilities will rival humans.
So,
Okay,
so
that's
there's
some.
this concept, right, of AGI,
Yeah, the
artificial.
yeah.
So what they're trying to say is in 2300, that's when we'll achieve AGI. But I think,
See, even now we are telling like AI is eating up jobs, which is also somewhere uh, we are competing with the AI, right? I mean, the AI is making things easy, but people who are not able to compete or understand AI or use AI are
yeah,
losing.
yeah. So, but 2000, I have a feeling 2300 is really far off. That's 2300 means that's how many years from now? 275, right?
Yeah.
275 years. But technology as we know it with chips and digitization, that's not even 75 years old. So they're saying it'll take 75 plus 200. I don't think it'll take that long.
and
If it
and we've
has.
not even scratched the surface on quantum computing in Gen AI now. Like we are only talking about the regular compute, like the
Oh, yeah, the
GPUs, CPU to
zero and
GPU
one.
has come.
Zero and one only, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah. So, yeah.
and we see that it is 4.4 trillion dollars annually. Gen AI could add to the global economy going forward, which is very much understood that this is gonna happen. So then they are talking about what is Gen AI, what is the artificial intelligence learning, and so people who want to catch up can look at this. But this is an interesting study, which looking at the AI part of thing. What do you think, Mohan?
I think it should be much faster than that, with all the focus being on Gen AI now. So I don't think it's going to take like 275 years, or like maybe we should be able to see it in our lifetime. Hopefully, that's my hope.
Yeah.
So
Two,
Yeah,
two, 275 years is, I
that's a
mean,
lot.
if, 75 years, wait, let's go back 75 years and right, and we're thinking about it compounding every few years always, right? So anyways, before the 90s, the whole concept of the internet being public, that itself wasn't there. right? So 90s to now is what, 30 years. In the last 30 years, things have just changed so much, right? So 75 years is a big deal, and 275 years is like,
No, we could not imagine that a robot could drive a, I mean, self-driving car a couple of years back. Today, AI is doing that. Tesla is doing that, and there are other rival companies doing that. Uh, Things are going autopilot, and flights have been, flown. There, drones are going without the humans. Uh, so I guess we could just imagine where it can blow.
yeah, no, because see, there's a there's a compounding effect, right, for technology. So if you see, like, from when we started, becoming cavemen to, started being more civilized, that took millions of years, or rather hundreds of thousands of years. But the moment some technology started coming in, things started changing very fast, right? So now, with all of this plug and play type scenarios, right? I mean, as time goes, you won't have to build anything from scratch, right? You'll be building on top of existing systems.
I have something remembering right now, right? Mohan, you remember the company that we had done some work earlier, where they used to have code written to see whether, they used to check the sensor data, and then whether the rainfall happened and all that stuff. And then they used to have this Web3 code, like a smart contract, to give the insurance to the farmers who have lost the crop and not so, because the governments and the bureaucracy will take too much time. They were thinking like, okay, we'll execute smart contracts, validate that data if the rainfall came and the crops were destroyed from sensors, and execute the smart contract, and you get your payment for the insurance payment. If that could happen, do you think we will have someday a government of AI, where you vote for someone, like based on blockchain or whatever, with whatever manifesto that they give will be like a blockchain, and then you have AI smart contracts. If it is human driven, fine, but like looking at 2300 years, we get all the work done through AI, and then we are governed by AI. Do you think that possibility coming in, like sci-fi?
I mean, from the way it's kind of headed, like you can definitely see that possibility, right? I think, even today, like a lot of the use cases that we are currently looking at is like, hey, can AI do this better? Can AI do this faster? So, including, let's say, legal consulting, or even like writing code for that matter, even like even general research understanding and stuff like that, right? So instead of you going through the papers and stuff like that, right, you are able to kind of just condense it down using this. So that's essentially where a lot of this is kind of headed. So yeah, in the like it's I just hope that it's not going to be like one of those dystopian futures that the sci-fi movies kind of depict, but rather it would be more in the opposite direction, that it's more collaborative. It's actually going to help us be better as human race, right? So I think hopefully that's essentially where things should be headed, but you never know in terms of what's going to happen. So but yeah, for sure, like uh I think, yeah, those one of those sci-fi movies wherein which you have that you know may not be that central, what do you say, I'm trying to recall, iRobo or something like that, right, wherein which you had that.
No, but Mohan, you're right. You're right. I think we're really going into that sci-fi phase, because before GPT-4o release, I think Sam Altman tweeted saying "her," right, and that "her"
Yeah, the
Yeah,
movie,
movie.
like
it was almost like it was real,
yeah,
right?
like
Yeah, I think.
her is more palatable versus something like, the more dystopian depictions of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully if it stays at the level of her or something like that, like I think that's still fine to some extent.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. But Azan, I like what you said about, uh, about how government, like a like an AI as a government, like instead of voting for people, maybe people start voting for ideologies, right?
Right.
And those ideologies would be like prompts to the main government AI, and then it'll start, reacting to
Yeah,
whatever
it would
happens.
be
So
better, no, than the rather than the people
yeah,
fighting. You select somebody and then you go
yeah,
and they people change parties and their ideologies are. You
yeah,
voted for someone for some ideology, but they
yeah.
shifted because they got
Shifted there,
money or
yeah,
whatever seat or
yeah.
position.
No,
It's
that could
it's
actually
more
happen.
reliable
No, that could actually happen because if you tell like if you're able to feed enough information, I mean, see more than it happening. I think it'll take time for the human mindset to shift. We'll
correct.
be okay to accept something that is generated artificially and not by someone with blood
And that
and
will happen slowly
skin.
because like in our previous episodes we've been talking about how acceptance for AI and new technology is happening. There was a time when people, if they wanted to buy something, they used to visit 5 shops. Today they visit 5 e-commerce sites. Whatever information comes on WhatsApp is believed to be truth. So whatever, if there is a personalized information and these things coming in, I think there's a lot of acceptance for this new tech
I remember
emerging
my
AI.
grandfather had one of these small books. It was called the address book. I don't know
Okay,
if so. It was basically a tiny book with everybody's name,
address. Yeah,
phone
yeah, yeah,
number,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
address,
yeah.
right? And even he doesn't use it now. I mean, he's 80 plus, right? So this is like similarly. I think people will the mindset set will shift where certain mundane things you won't even actually doubt if AI, sort of says something. Like you won't question it, I feel, after a while. Like you don't question Google searches, right? Most people don't.
With that note, that whether to trust or not, there's a new article, next article which the team has put is why OpenAI cannot be trusted. Seems interesting. Let's see what it has to
Such a clickbait
say.
article.
I think okay. It's a LinkedIn article, if I'm not wrong, and it says why OpenAI cannot be trusted. Can a self-governance structure guarantee safety and ethics in AI development? Very contrary to what we spoke, and you know. So let's see what it's a content slider. So they have just given a gist of the whole big article. So we are self-governance fails. So we are cautiously optimistic that OpenAI's innovative approach to self-governance could offer a blueprint for responsible AI development. But based on our experience, we believe that self-governance cannot uh, reliably withstand the pressure of profit incentives. So this
Okay,
is
so this is the
irony,
whole.
right? I mean, you cannot have a business say that okay, we are developing an AI and then you have self-governance. When you have profit, when you have something that which might attract more profit,
So they need
maybe
like
it's like
auditors.
yeah, the motives can change,
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
everyone is here. All this investment and money is, though they may say that it is improvement for humanity, but at the end of the day, all these people are putting in money to make more money, right?
Again, like I think in the previous article we saw about what 60 governments have an AI policy and all of that, right? So over time, this may sort of become part of policy where you have to have there has to be like a government audited structure in your organization, your where you get your data from, whether you're able to ensure that whoever data you're taking, you're either notifying them or getting consent. All of that would happen right soon, and that may change things a bit. But the only problem with this is that governments, I mean, see, the government is the only person who can do this, right? I don't think there's anyone like another industry cannot do this too.
So there's a lot of regulation the government needs to bring in. Then I mean they're putting it really right, right? I mean they said initially it was for non-profit and AGI, and now benefit for all humanity, and now all the money and the whole leadership is all looking at just making more money and invest getting when more big companies come in, investors come in, they all have to generate profit.
No, I'd like to compare this to another existing sort of industry that we have. So the banking and the money, wherever there's money involved, right? So those are highly regulated, right? So things move slow and everything. But I'm imagining a time where the concept of money just started, like printed money, right? Before the barter system and all. So at that time, it was definitely not regulated, right? It was gold, right? So over time, over 100, 200, 300 years, the whole system of banks and all of that came in, right? So there is a possibility that after governments figure out in 100, 200 years, they may figure out a way, or I mean 50, 60 years in this case, they may figure out a way to actually put processes in check. That, if you're an AI company, if you're training, something in AI, you have to.
I think that's already happening, right? I think the European Union already passed something saying that, hey, this is how we are going to regulate AI, and I think India also kind of created some sort of a national registry of companies who are working on AI, especially training beyond a certain token size or something like that. So you have to kind of register with things like that, right? So that's definitely, I mean, if you look at historically, right? So I think governments always, you know, either on one side, like it's the EU and stuff like that, where like the extreme regulation and everything, which also kind of impedes a lot of this the pace at which companies can kind of evolve, companies can kind of innovate and then develop and stuff like that, right? So on the other side of it, there could be companies, there are countries that with zero regulation and stuff like that. I think there's going to be some sort of a sweet spot. I think it's too early to kind of talk about a national entity to kind of come back and say that, hey, this is how we are going to regulate AI, because there is there is very little understanding of how this is going to pan out. So at this point in time, a lot of this is kind of experimental. We are all just kind of getting to see what's coming out of it, right? So for example, Google was sitting on something like this for a long time, but they never released it. So just because of, I don't know, for whatever reasons, it could be because of accuracy reasons and stuff like that, for the use case or stuff like that, so they just couldn't do it. But what they were good at is, like, they always had an internal oversight committee and stuff like that, right? They have done well in the past, but yes, at some point in time they were doing well. After that, they kind of, fired their entire ethics committee and stuff like that. So there's also that part of it that kind of overshadows some of the good that they have tried to do in the past, right? And similarly with Meta also has some, and because of the massive compute that's kind of needed for this, it was always the bigger ones, right? So it was always the Google, the Metas of the world, Microsoft of the world, who could essentially like invest on it and do something about it. But yeah, external oversight, it's like, to what extent, it do you want to impede the pace at which companies are able to innovate at this point in time, and also kind of protect people's interests also, right? When it comes to like a national interest, it's not just a company or a particular piece of technology trying to make uh, as much profit as it can, but it's also kind of taking care of the entire population base, right? So they can't make a decision based on saying that, hey, this skilled subset, this 1% of the people who are skilled in this, they are gonna massively benefit from something like this, versus the rest of the country wouldn't, right? So yes, definitely, like, so it's very complicated at this point in time, but you know I think things will kind of evolve and for the better, and somewhere will land in between that scale of saying that extreme regulation to like extreme relaxed,
See,
capital
I
profit
feel
driven.
when let's say it's something like you have the atom bombs, right? I mean, nuclear energy. That's the right word. I was just finding the right word. So like all these countries, they have like sanctions if you're using nuclear weapons or nuclear energy or for anything like that. So like there's good and bad of both things. But how can you stop a rogue nation? We have, okay, governments, big countries where this is available is fine, but there could be rogue nations or countries which do not or not on the same plateau, and they would take this technology for the worst of humanity, right? Because at least uh, on the plane where the UN is there and where all these peacekeeping nations are coming in together to form some union, uh,
So
the
I
rogue
think
countries can take it
I
and
I think in this case, Azan, so the problem is that so what you're trying to protect, right, which is data, that itself is hard to protect. So it's not like like I was talking about money or cash or something valuable, physical, right? So that is a physical an item, right, which is still there is something that you can put security around it. It has to be printed, there has to be a label, there has to be so many things, right? When you talk about data and it's virtual, right? So there's so many ways. I mean, everybody is generating it, right? And it's stored in different silos across the world, right? So even if you do regulate it and you do have an external oversight, enforcing that itself is going to be hard, right? Like, how are you going to say that, like, okay, you can't use this photo, right? But I take a screenshot of it and then I use it and then I change something little bit in it. So, right. So it's more of like protecting something virtual versus protecting something physical is a completely different ball game, right? And governments will, of course, try to put rules to, I mean, like Mohan said, maybe not now because they don't understand as much yet. I mean, there's a whole black box and how it functions and all that. But later on, maybe they will be like, okay, you can only use data from these type of sources, or if you are using data, somebody's data, they have to be compensated, or something like that, right? But still enforcing, I don't know how they would begin to enforce this. Yeah, I'm not able to figure out whether they will be able to
so,
enforce it
yeah,
properly.
so this article going forward also says like balancing market, forcing regulations, benefit of humanity. I think if we all agree data is the new oil, and there are like for oil, there have been many wars fought for oil. If data is a new oil and AI is the new tech there, I believe the next World War III will be cyber war, right? Based on
No, that
AI
but
and
that
things like
yeah,
that.
that's already happening. I think unfortunately, whenever tech becomes cutting edge, the first people to actually adopt it are, for the negative use case, not for the positive use case. So now, yeah, I'm pretty sure the hackers are already using it.
But to Azan's point, largely like we anything destructive is not that easily embraced by us, like as human race as a whole, right? So you're taking the example of that of atomic bomb or something like that. There's been like two instances of it actually being used, but whereas the technology is being used to kind of actually generate energy and stuff like that, right? So there's always
Mm.
that, but again, like in the I think people will all governments across the world will start protecting their national interest, because this is as destructive as it can get, you know if they don't regulate it properly or
Control or
control,
regulated.
or
Yeah,
even access
correct.
also, if it gets like highly restricted, so that means that the whole the progress of a nation can get impeded. So there's definitely going to be some national interests that everyone will want to protect, but yeah, it's I think from a
So it's going to
destructive use
be
of it,
more laws.
I don't think there'll be a lot more destructive use of it. Hopefully, yeah.
So more laws and regulation, compliance, and more of that sort might happen. Expected to happen.
Yeah, probably.
Going forward, this is a new article here which says 5 AI strategies startups can use to build a competitor crushing market capability. So we are already talking about like how AI can be used in startups and your businesses and how that can. There's an article.
Somebody has SEO'd the title very well.
So here is the article which talks about how we can use. So I think yes. So first section is about abandon the gradual approach. So abandon the typical stepwise approach to building marketing strategy or capability and build all functions simultaneously. Startups often build their marketing function one capability at a time. AI enables you to cost effectively kick off a wide range of capabilities all at once. think any company would want to start something like, okay, I have five offerings, but I want to go test the market, try to do one thing, and there are other competitors also doing a similar thing. But with AI, can they add more skills, compete one edge over their competitors?
I think okay. So the real benefit for a startup using AI is that, you know, with the kind of tools available, the barrier to doing something that a 5-person, a 6-person team can do in a more structured and organized company is low, right? So if you have one person who has really good clarity of thought and access to these tools, right, the execution becomes a lot easier, and then now you don't need, somebody for your for your content, then somebody for your digital marketing strategy, and maybe one person can do all of that, right? At one side, the content is being generated, at the same time you're analyzing your strategy, and also, getting your marketing material out. So
So
that
I think
makes
even they're saying the same thing, right? I mean, keeping insights from AI analysis, marketing functions, and use one core. You should be good at one core thing, and then based on that, AI can help you, expand. It's not that I don't have any core functionality to offer, and then just by using AI, everything can be done. You should have still have your moat, and AI can be that thing that can help you scale uh, your offerings. Second thing they're saying is build for departmental flexibility. I think it's more from the marketing side, this article. And then this I think it's a collaborative article. Multiple people have collaborated to write. Design operational strategies around functions. Uh, AI tools can dramatically cost effectively improve efficiency across a range of marketing activities, market audience analytics, content creation, performance monitoring, digital marketing. Uh, Mohan, you have worked with a lot of martech companies, right? Some of our customers that you have worked with. Any of these companies are talking about AI, or any of your recent interactions with these customers, trying to see how AI can come in and improve their.
AI has always been used in this sense, right? Like, I mean, we are talking about Gen AI, which is kind of new, but especially any of the market tools, or even including ad services and stuff like that, they've always kind of embraced it, whether it's content curation or target audience reach, or like as simple as like, hey, this ad should be shown to Azan or Atul or Mohan, or should it be shown to who. That's always it's always been an AI driven decision, right? So it's not so. But I think the crux of the article, if you actually look at it, right, it's essentially very generic in nature, so it could get applied to any other company that's which wherein which Gen AI could kind of drastically accelerate their productivity, right? Let's take our own like services as an example, right? Like, or code, writing code as an example, right? So the you can definitely write a lot more code now. Like, you can have agents, that are creating a template for you, which previously was very restrictive, right? Only the bigger companies had something like that, but now like all of us have access to it. So that means that in general, productivity of every developer or every person is kind of increasing, right? Coming closer to just marketing and stuff like that, like, I don't know if you have seen those the videos wherein which even the influencer marketing that's essentially happens. So that's also kind of getting broadened with, or augmented with AI, right? So not every video is kind of actually recorded by, it need not be recorded by you, right, as a person, but you could have your virtual, you could have your avatar that's a clone that kind of do it. And today I think some have kind of really achieved it, wherein which it looks very realistic. You can't even differentiate just looking at it, right? Maybe there can be small hiccups and stuff like that. So if there is one company who's going to do that, or there is a set of people who are going to do that, wherein which they can churn content like at a crazy scale, versus there's a you still want to take a step back and say that no, I'm still going to do it myself. So the reach that you can have is like vastly different, right? So it's essentially generic in nature. So I mean, they will as well rewrite it over, maybe publish another article over the next week and say that, hey, this other industry, if you're not embracing it, you're gonna like just your competitor is gonna crush you, right? So it's like that. I feel this article is like more generic in that sense, but yeah, from
I think a good learning from articles like this where we can see how AI can be used. This is another section where we have something on responsible AI deployment. How to reap benefits of Gen AI without risks. It's an article by Your Story. Let's check this
So
article.
when they say deployment, undeniable.
So generative AI has garnered both appreciation and criticism ever since it was introduced to the world. Technology makers have hailed it as a solution, increasing efficiency, save time. That's what we've been discussing. However, some feel Gen AI will be responsible for job losses. We talked about it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
how AI can be a when you want to increase efficiency, all those people who are not able to be as efficient as the Gen AI, maybe they'll lose the job. So in reality, it can help boost productivity and all that. For example, Gen AI in a contact center, you can automatically gather all the data from multiple conversation and brand literature in one place. Then, when faced with a question, an agent can simply enter a prompt to get the answer right. I mean, this is we all have faced, right? I mean, you have a customer problem. You're speaking to someone. He says, "Oh, I cannot handle. Let me transfer it to a different department." And then again, you have to tell all the problem from beginning. And he says, "Okay, let me get back to you." And after 3 days, he calls the other person who's the agent, doesn't know anything about you, and he has to read all the stuff. So I mean, it's really a bad customer experience when you're talking to when you have big brands who are talking on these lines. If Gen AI can come in and like what we see in the GPT-4o capabilities, right? I mean, you have the information and it can literally read all the historical information about this particular customer. And let's say if if it is regarding a repair or a service that I'm not happy with or a product that I've bought, and I've been a customer from the last 5 years, and this year I have a problem. So it can customize the response very much specific to like personalization to improve the customer experience.
No, so in this case, Azan, I think, see, I think when they say responsible deployment, right, the article seems to be referencing more from a job perspective, right? And how if AI does, ABC, people won't have those jobs, right? But I think this is, I mean, where there's a lot of noise about this, across the internet, across different countries and everything. But this is not something new. This has been happening for ages, right? Like, things become more efficient. There are things that, like today, there are, okay, fine, there's a big set of people who do go out, farm and everything, but now they also use machine. A lot of that is also automated, right? Like you and me, we don't go out in the farm and we don't, plant our own vegetables and then go for harvest and all of that. But maybe 500-600 years ago, everyone used to do it, right? Now now going back then, and when they saw these machines coming and doing everything automatically, I mean, they would also thought that, okay, now I don't have a job, right? Now I don't have a, I mean, I'm talking about laborers working in the farm, right? So similarly, I think there will be new jobs and new industries that are open because of this, and people will gradually move into that. But yes, like they've said, people today who don't know how to use it, they may be like, okay, like now an AI is doing my job, I don't know how to do anything else, right? So those cases will definitely get affected. But that's where, you're supposed to upskill and try to use AI to improve your productivity. So if you could do 1x the work, now you use a tool and do 10x, so that, I'm more valuable to the company or to the society or something like that.
We can definitely relate to this one more, like the use of Gen AI in HR functions. Especially when you have like too many job openings and you have a lot of people applying and you have huge database of existing people who have applied earlier and things like that, and you have resumes and then matching of these resumes to the particular job posts. Um, every time there is a new opening, the same cycle comes in and there's huge time gone in just to find the right match for the JD, right? And using Gen AI, and finding the right match, it can definitely reduce a lot of time.
Yeah, that's where like I think that's where the responsible AI part of it kind of focuses on. So it's about what you deploy or what you start using it for versus trying to replace someone versus trying to augment them to be
Yeah,
more productive, right? I think that's the core focus
yeah,
for all of us should be that, hey, can I make my HR team more productive than what they are, so that hey, we can probably interview a larger base. Similar to it, like uh, legal or healthcare or customer success or any of these people, like what is the limited human capital that's already deployed? Like can AI augment them to be a lot more productive and help deliver business
yeah.
outcomes, right?
Essentially, look at this as a scaling tool and not as a replacement tool, right? So
In fact, Atul, sometimes what happens in some of our cases is the customers come back and say, what, we are looking at these three skills. I need somebody on React and Node, and he should know a little bit of Kafka. That's it, just three keywords. Now, with these three keywords, we, or the HR team, whenever we want to say either recruit or find a job description, make a job description out of it, because you would need people, then they should have such big content from just three keywords, right?
yeah,
And we already have some existing job descriptions, that how we make. And now with use of Gen AI, maybe just use a ChatGPT and the right prompt, you understand what the customer's business is, you understand what their demand is and what is the experience that they want. Fill in those information and it will generate you a right job description, because that
yeah.
helps for people who are applying, right? They cannot just see three keywords and apply for a job. So that
Correct.
actually we are currently using.
Yeah, I think. See, yeah. So these are like, this is where you're adding to somebody's output, right? So instead of, so imagine the time. So if you hadn't done it this way, right? So they'd have to go maybe talk to someone who's already an expert in these technologies and say, okay, is this okay? Should I write this down? So I think here essentially what you get back is about maybe 1 or 2 days worth of effort, right? So the
Yeah,
2 days worth of,
definitely yes.
yeah.
Because then you need
So
approvals, then you need things.
yeah,
Because even if you go to the hiring manager, he will also take some time to come back, and then you have waiting for this. There's always a bottleneck. Hey, why this has not happened? Oh, I'm not got a thing from the manager. Manager, I'm already busy with a lot of existing tasks. If they had a ready template, I would have easily just verified once and given an approval. So if this Gen AI can help us bridge these gaps, a lot of workflows can happen. It can lubricate the things going forward. Well, moving on, we have another article: transforming banking with Gen AI, more precise loan and investment offers for customers on the way. So that's the article. Here it is: transforming banking with Gen AI, precise loan and investment offers for customers on the way. Are you tired of seeing repetitive, irrelevant personal loan? Of course, everyone is getting spammed. Tell me who's not getting a call of credit card, or do you need a loan, right? I mean,
yeah,
imagine how much efforts go in vain, right? I mean, imagine the person's life every morning is like calling up, and you at the other end, you're enjoying your Sunday breakfast with your family, and somebody is like, "Sir, आपको loan चाहिए."
yeah. I think there was a study. I don't know what exactly their conversion rate is. I think it's under 10% easily, right? Maybe single digit also. I mean, that is single digit. Maybe under five also. I'm not sure. But imagine the volume of calls that they do. I think on average they do 300, 400 calls a day. So that's that many minutes of that many people's lives basically wasted, right? So yeah, of course, high personalized loans and all of these. these offerings. And in fact, it wouldn't just be okay. So they call you, they ask you, do you need a personal loan? Do you need a car loan? Do you need this loan? Right? But it is, I mean, they're already using a bunch of data to make this assumption, right? So what Gen AI can do, in my opinion, is analyze this a lot better. So today they already get leads based on certain data, right? But of course, it's not analyzed well enough for them to get a good enough conversion rate. But I mean, implementing technology like this could help them increase their conversion rate, which ends up being lesser calls in total.
I think I would kind of flip this, right? Like, if this is one of those cases where in which do you actually need Gen AI, like to create a loan product, right? It's like just because of the hype curve back then, it was all saying that, hey, let's put everything on a blockchain and stuff like that. So now it's like, hey, let's use Gen AI just because it's trending, right? So like you don't need like a Gen AI to kind of create a specific loan product that's tailored for a specific target audience or a specific person also, right? So there's these are all like solve problems. Like you don't need to kind of spend so much of compute to use Gen AI to be doing this, right? And to your point, Atul, like robocalls have always kind of existed, right? So like most of
Yeah.
most of the banking product sales, like I know, I mean, in I think in India we get a lot more human calls. I think we have stopped doing we have started seeing a lot more robocalls only recently, but uh, like wherever the human capital is kind of restricted, robocalls were always there. Like we have seen customer success teams use it like really well, wherein which can complete your entire transaction over just a robocall, right? And it was all voice and
Yeah.
everything. So yeah, like having seen all that being done, like do you need Gen AI to do this? Maybe not. Like you mentioned, maybe
No, but robocalls are technically Gen AI now, right? Like now, most of the robocalls are Gen AI powered. I mean, it will be if it's not, right? And more
Yeah,
important
there are
than
products like
powering,
the Unifor and other people who are using Gen AI, and the it sounds empathetic, and
yeah,
based on that. So that is happening. All the contact center softwares,
yeah.
they're trying to bring the Gen AI and the voice model and modulations and all that.
but I think more than, yeah, like Mohan said, more than hyper personalizing, right? Maybe it makes more sense to figure out who actually needs it.
Yeah, more on the prospecting
See,
side of
here
it, right?
it's
Like
an interesting
you
thing.
can accelerate your
Yeah.
prospecting part of it and then essentially offer it. But yeah, like for example, if
Now
I'm a
here
primary
they're
banking
talking
customer,
about
so they mostly
uh,
have my data, right? I might have like one or two accounts, and especially in India or something like that, like with access to something like account aggregator or something like that, using which they have my transactions data and everything. So
Hmm.
exactly.
for just using that, they can definitely tailor something wherein much it's not going to stress me out, but
Your spending habits,
exactly.
Yeah.
where do you spend, and what's the most
W-
habit that you're
w-
spending, and
y-
based on that, right? Instead of every what does how does a new to credit comes into picture. The Anybody who's getting into a salary, the first thing the banks do is with the bank account opening, they also offer a credit card, right?
yeah.
And they give lots of offers, and there's no proper financial thing given. Just they're open to get the new credits and build the credit score. So they're spending on things that they don't need also sometimes, and that is a wrong thing on a long term, that is going to spoil. So if we know
That's
exactly
another
what are
topic.
the specific needs of a
But no, but that's, yeah, you're right, man. That's completely another topic. I think banks on its own, they don't have a social motive, right? End of the day, they're creditors. So yeah, I mean, this case, I mean, I would agree with Mohan. I don't think personalizing to such an extent would be required. But yeah, prospecting could be done a lot better.
Interestingly, another article on banking and financial market CEOs betting on Gen AI. In fact, this is something which every other business is doing, right? Every other business wants to see what are we doing on Gen AI, how much are we
But
investing on Gen AI, and what we're going
but
to do.
I want to see how banking and financial markets move ahead in the space. I mean, embracing Gen AI, because they're such a traditional business, and except for some of the new age fintechs, on maybe on the crypto side or payment gateways and all of that. I mean, the more traditional banks generally move a lot slower because of regulation and all of that. So
According to
I
this
do.
article, they said about 57% of BFM CEOs do see a competitive advantage by using Gen AI. Now, again, which areas is something that we need to see? Like, what areas? So they made a survey of about 3,000 CEOs
Okay.
by IBM Institute for Business Value, right? And in that 50%, 57% of the people said it is, they are looking at using advanced Gen AI. According to findings, 59% of the surveyed CEOs said cultural change is more important than overcoming technical challenges when becoming data driven business. With 65% of them also believe that AI will depend more on people's adoption than the technology itself. 60% of them say that pushing for AI adoption more quickly than some employees might find comfortable. So this is a regular thing with any new technology, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even when we were writing things on paper and pen, and then things slowly put to digital, and from digital to cloud. I mean, from devices solely sitting then to cloud. From every time there has been some sort of restriction where the leadership thinks, yes, by digitizing we will move forward, but there is some resistance internally where they have to promote it internally and make them believe that why we are moving this on these new technologies.
In my opinion, with a lot of these disruptive technologies, adoption is maybe as important as innovation, right? Why? Because I can give you an example of the whole metaverse phase, right? There's a phase where everyone thought, yeah, everyone will have goggles, everyone will be sitting at home, everyone will be like talking to each other, they'll have their own metaverse avatar, and they'll be chilling virtually instead of in person. But I think adoption didn't happen there, right? And not to say it won't come back, it may come back, right? But I think there were a lot of there's a lot of big money put on it, but people were just not comfortable with it yet, right? So adoption, very rightly so, is very important. And I think banking, where it's a very, I mean, again, regulation and rules, and there's the whole maker checker, this that, right? Now what happens when there's, it's completely driven by technology, like, who's the maker, who's the checker? Are you supposed to check the AI, or is the AI supposed to check you? you So all of those discussions will be very complicated, especially because you have, like, people from different backgrounds in banking. There are people from the commerce and finance side who don't know how tech works, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So they may be very skeptical.
That is where, interestingly, 83% of them acknowledge that this is, they need to learn this, have this adoption of
Mm.
technology. They are agreeing that they want to. 40% have assessed the potential impact of Gen AI as well. 34% of the workforce will require retraining. So about 34% people said that they require retraining, and in the next uh, 3 years to come,
Mm.
right? So that's what they've been planning. It's more of a cultural shift, is the whole article says,
Yeah.
about, like, it's all about a cultural shift about an
Yeah,
organization.
and weirdly enough, these changes, these disruptive technologies come more often nowadays. So this kind of a cultural shift will keep on happening. So I think, I mean,
I
we have
think,
to see.
Mohan, if we are not wrong, like 2016, 2017 times, everyone was talking about blockchain, crypto, Bitcoin, and why banks are not going into crypto. And there was, like, a lot of talk about that as well, right? I mean, why they're keeping the ledger here, why it can't be decentralized. But eventually, the regulations made sure that this crypto world is kept separate versus the banking. But I believe on an international level, some banks, when they're doing international transfer, they're still using some sort of crypto. Do
Yeah,
the
yeah, there are some coins pegged to currencies also now.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, you could technically through that exchange
But it did
currencies.
not pick up. Like,
Yeah,
people were
but
saying that, okay, this is new thing in the
No, it did, right? Like it,
financial world.
it
Yes,
just
there is
it
still
just took
crypto.
time. India has the Indian digital rupee and stuff like that. That's kind of being promoted now, and US
yeah,
has the US dollar and stuff like that. And if you actually start seeing, I think uh, there are like ETF products created now that's pegged against I think, I don't know, Bitcoin or something like that, right? So, but going back to it, it's so it's like a shiny new technology, right? Everyone wants to like see, can I like putting a whatever that, round ball into a like a square hole, right? Like, you know, just because it's a shiny new technology, you want to put it everywhere. No, that's not going to happen, right? End of the day, there'll be the use cases will kind of consolidate down, and then wherever it actually makes sense is where, the technology will get adopted. Wherever it did make sense, it could be a financial sense, it could be a process, it could be regulation, whatever that it could be, right? Because of which it doesn't make sense for a technology to be used in a specific problem statement, then it just kind of dies down, and then, whatever works is going to replace that.
No, plus, in the banking side, there's a lot of data residency rules. Where should the processing happen? All of that. I don't know how they're going to handle all of that uh, using newer, I mean, Gen AI tools at least, right?
Moving to the next article, it's about healthcare. So we've covered many other domains, so startups, banking, finance, HR, and now healthcare. Right? Key considerations to Cancer Institute's Gen AI deployment. Seems like they are. There's an article in the CIO website, and yeah, end users at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute saw the possibilities for Gen AI use cases soon after the technology emerged, but adopting it required careful thought about safety, security, and especially governance. The overhype of Gen AI was unavoidable last year, yet despite all the distraction, unproven benefits, and potential pitfalls, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute CIO uh, Naomi Lennon didn't want to ban the technology outright. It was undeniably groundbreaking, and there could be interesting things that institute's employees might have been able to do with it. I think I think one of the podcasts we also talked about, right, how you can use multiple imagery and these kind of things to identify if there are any cancerous cells or from the report or stuff like that. And most departments had specific problems that they were trying to solve, exponentially more inefficient. I'm just trying to see what more specific to this article that could be like. It's a it's a very long article. Talks about HIPAA. So employees interacting with OpenAI chatbot directly. That allows the institute to track usage of queries and get an overall view of how people use the tool. Oh, okay. It allows. So I think they made a front end for uh, the OpenAI. So not the directly giving the access, but making a front end so that they could track how people are going to use. And it also helps in controlling the prompts, giving the data like security, compliance, PII checks, and other guardrails
Yeah,
to
they
be
could
built
build
around it.
their own set of checks, right, before even
Yes, yes,
it
and then
leaves.
all the HEPA compliances and all that stuff. The obligation to protect patient privacy data under HIPAA precluded the institute from using public Gen AI services like ChatGPT,
Mm.
and training an LLM from scratch was too cost prohibitive. So while on-prem open source LLMs were considered, they'd require significant investment, infrastructure, and they should be as productive as the GPT-4 or the new one that is coming in. So this is one other thing, right? I mean, people are saying that okay, we want to use the GPT-4 and things like that, but not everyone can uh, afford that many GPUs and train their own model. So they'll have to somehow figure out a way that I don't want to share my data, but I would want to get benefit from uh,
Someone else's data.
yes, someone else's data, or at least the LLM capabilities that
LLMs,
it
yeah.
is there. So how do we bridge this gap itself? So GPT-4 DCI's API is available initial technical testers and many exploring RAG techniques for reliable information extraction and aggregation. So I think they have done an internal GPT for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. As an example of policy guardrail, all members of the workforce are required to take responsibility for their work products irrespective for the means of generation.
Okay.
So everyone has to
Le-
verify that, and then
Yeah.
there's vendor management. And let's look at the conclusion part, right? Sponsored and multiple gone for committee. For GPT-4 DCI, a careful rollout process was also key, starting with a small group of advanced users and gradually expanding access. Says with advancements of in this thing, we are approaching a future of GenAI agents that could become ubiquitous in our physical world. These agents could assist the daily task and productivity, but what's more important is business in designing, deploying AI. Our ultimate professional mandate is to support Dana-Faber's mission of reducing the burden of cancer in the world. Interesting. Let's see if we can give it to Bing, and let's see how Bing performs. There you go, Copilot. Let's see how how you guys are doing it.
Internal tool. Yeah.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah.
So AI governance, how the whole governance thing, I think we read about it, how uh, Dana Faber Cancer Institute implemented a governance framework. So they made a front end to track what is a, if there is no PII going in, no sensitive information going out. So they made their own front end and did the check, and developed GPT-4 DCI, a safe integration GenAI tool for non-clinical tasks. Okay, they're not given any clinical analysis and things like that for GPT-4. Non-clinical tasks, because any organization may have a lot of non-clinical tasks and peripherals in there. Controlled deployment introduced training and privacy policies and a vetting process for AI in third-party systems, right? And emphasized human oversight and ethical
Yeah.
considerations in AI applications. So
So
this
this is
were
basically
some
where this.
four key things, and I
Yeah.
think it's a good guardrail, right? Having these kind of measures, especially in the healthcare,
Yeah.
how to implement and how to keep it safe.
Yeah. I think they've taken a very uh, not defensive and not offensive approach also. Like, they've not said that, oh, we're not going to use it. And they've not said that, oh, we're going to use it completely. They've sort of tried to use it in places that are not, dangerous, and then see how it's working and put the right systems. And I think this is where, I mean, this is a very good example of how more mature organizations will be looking at using AI, like, because they have a lot more to lose, and a lot of uh, existing processes and protocols that they can't put at risk, right? So I think this is a good example of how sensitive industries will start implementing AI.
Okay, this is one more interesting thing. ChatGPT outage disrupts users of the most popular GenAI tool, right? I mean, it will, if you can see in the last 90 days, what has been the uptime. So when we look at ChatGPT, and a lot of other
it,
tools are using ChatGPT, right? I mean, API driven or maybe some front end driven.
it's
So
not able to
with
give pronouns also.
99.93, do you think people can rely on uh, ChatGPT APIs?
Yeah, man. Honestly, like that, they are at this point in time they are scaling rapidly, right? Your adoptions are scaling. It's heavily subsidized. I can just imagine what their SRE teams are looking like as of now, but what they're dealing with, but the uptime that's there, it's massive. It's amazing, right? Like uh, especially the kind of service that they're running, the kind of interest that's around it. So yeah, and obviously, like their team would be kind of optimizing some things and stuff like that. So I don't know. Have they published what happened incident report for that? I don't think so, right? I think
I
uh,
mean, this is one which is available, which
no,
is,
that's more of the
I think,
article
a
talking about it.
update.
But I think
Yeah, but this is an update from ChatGPT itself.
no,
I
no,
think this is the
that's like a
official one.
screenshot of their this
Yeah,
thing, right?
this is
So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
post an incident, like
yeah,
normally they would publish. I think Cloudflare does an amazing job at that. In some cases, Google does an amazing job at that. You essentially kind of go through it and then see in terms of what happened. So, uh, yeah, but this is okay, man. This is expected. Like, we being on the other side of it, like it's okay. We need to expect some of these things to be done.
yeah.
Uh,
Plus, I think currently somewhere I read that they're actually losing money. I mean, even if you consider all of the subscription that they get, $20 $25 per user or whatever, they're still losing money maintaining the model today, right? Just hosting it and making it available. So I mean, I think so. This may change a lot more later when GPUs and process and compute becomes cheaper, and I think Nvidia and multiple folks are working on that. But yeah, I mean, like Mohan said, this is still like a very nascent technology, and judging them, so early on, may not be, may not be fair, right? But yeah, but it does make us look at the other picture. Like, can you use it for supercritical uh, applications right now? Maybe not, right? I think a couple of years ago, 4 5 years ago, there was some AWS outage, and like 500 600 flights, their timings got cancelled or something happened, right? I think in the US, right?
yeah.
And
One
that
of the
is,
zones went down because
yeah,
of
one of the
the.
drones went down,
Yeah,
and this was when cloud computing was, what I think, matured in their fifth or sixth year, right? So I
right.
mean, if
I think these
us
things are
have,
more
yeah,
accepted now, but going forward, we expect these to be more reliable, more maybe multi-cloud deployments and things like that. So have more availability zones, right? Okay. This was one more thing which we recently saw. So it's I think leaked content, internal document from Google, which says, "Hey, we have no moat, and neither does OpenAI." And it says that open source will outcompete Google and AI. So who has the moat really now? Like Gemini is also there, and Apple now wants to use ChatGPT. The big companies are using that stuff, and Facebook has made its own
yeah, llama.
AI open to everyone in open source. So who's going to win and who's going to have this moat now? Yes, the first early mover advantager is with the OpenAI, but even they are depending on data from others.
I think here the mode is not whether you have the data, not just whether you have the data, or whether you have the right skill set. It's about how you you operationalize and organize this whole system, right? So how you basically run the ship would be the only differentiator here, because now, eh, data is easily accessible to all of these folks, right? I mean, it's not like they have a restriction on the amount of data they have yet, right? Compute, yes, but I don't think. I think I'm pretty sure they all have the same purchasing power to buy compute. It's not that one has less or one has more. They have good amount of money to buy compute, resources as well, right? So I mean, the only differentiating factor I can see, if there is one, is their operations, right? And I think there is today there is a difference between all of the models that we see, right? Like, there are certain AI models that do better at certain things. There are certain AI models that are very good at general purpose stuff, right? And there are certain, for example, like a mid journey or a stability. I mean, they are generally used more on the image generation side. But OpenAI also has DALI, but people do prefer the controllability of the other mod of stability or mid journey versus DALI, right? So these things, I mean, the way they position themselves and the way they operationalize uh, their their organization, I feel that's the real differentiator, not anything else. There's nothing else to differentiate, in fact, right?
Yeah, this was one more thing where we were seeing that how perplexity, which is AI search engine, obviously, which is talking like, why to use Google, use Perplexity, it has having access to internet. But if you see the whole ecosystem, right? I mean, the investors and people who have been advisors to this company, it's every other big company is has invested in this. So do you think these guys will, probably replace Google
And I can see a lot
because
of
one
G's
entity
also. Yeah,
is.
I can see a lot of G's also there. Right? So I think it's more about there's no doubt where so Google search itself was cutting edge tech when it came out, right? It was already like really good when it came out. But now I think this is an attempt to simplify the process, or rather, try to see if another approach to it using, shiny tech could work, right?
You see
And
the comments, very very funny, and I
I
search
search
Perplexity
for
using Google, and the other one says like I'm now using 10 to 12 times a day Perplexity when compared to Google,
No, but
right? So
have you guys used Perplexity for any of day
I
to day,
have,
right?
I have,
Like,
yeah, I
so
have.
they are essentially reimagining how the search experience would be, right? Today, I
right.
think
Yeah,
for some reason, like anything that you search on Google, the first, I think most of the page is kind of just filled with some spam content that doesn't really have
yeah,
anything in it. But that's where I think Perplexity is trying to bring in that user experience differentiator, right? I think there was a time wherein which you wouldn't even look beyond your first or second article on the Google search results page, right?
Or maybe the
But
maximum the first 10
yeah, like
results.
I mean, if you are
yeah,
essentially at like on your second page, you're essentially dead as a company, right? So it
yeah,
was it was kind of like that, but now it's not so. So the way Google is kind of surfacing, uh, the results and stuff like that has drastically reduced in terms of usability. There's very low signal in that entire thing. It's very noisy. But Perplexity on the other side, they're trying to say that. And what it also nicely does is it also links it while it's also summarizing everything, it's also linking to the articles that it's kind of referenced. So if you want to go
references.
back and look at the
Yeah,
source and do a better job at understanding that yourself, like it's you can
But I
do
think
that.
that's what every other browser search engine will do over a period of time. Let's say even Google's Gemini, that's also supposed to do the same thing. And when there's the new thing that they announced, probably go a step further and probably also answer in their
It's more
local
like a first
language
mover advantage,
context.
right? I think Perplexity was the first to
yeah.
kind of reimagine the entire UX, right? And
And
that's
Google has your data. They know what you like, what you don't like, how
No,
many times you order food in
but
Zomato, what
but
kind of things
all
you
yeah,
searched
yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
So they
but
have all
also
the
So
stuff.
this may not be only about how good a search perplexity has, right? It may also be about accessibility, right? Like you must have heard that I think Google pays Apple
Yeah.
so that on Safari Google is the default search engine, right?
Default search engine. I
Yeah,
mean, the
so in a lot
Firefox
of
thing.
places,
Moat
like
is
the
a
guy said, yeah, the guy said that I
big fan of
use Google.
Firefox.
Yeah, the guy said, somebody who commented said that I used Google to search perplexity. So it's
Right.
become like such a innate action for us, right? Like it's not, we don't even think, like you would by default do it only via Google, right? So perplexity
It's
coming,
like if I want to check my internet connection is working, I probably hit google.com first. Like, or Google
yeah,
chal raha hai to fine. Everything is
yeah,
sorted.
yeah, it needs to be in, like, so it needs to start being on your phones, on everywhere, right? If so it's more of I mean, even if it is very good, even if it's 10 times better, if they don't ace that, I don't think it's going to work. Right? That's it.
So I think we've seen enough articles. Now, last section, couple of entertaining memes and videos is something what I see. But this is one interesting post I saw on LinkedIn the other day. It says, "I want to do my AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing, not for AI to do my art and writing so that I can do my laundry and dishes."
This,
I mean,
this,
this is typically anyone would want to do, right? A mundane job for someone would be like, how can I eliminate doing my dishes, or cooking for some people may not be that easy
yeah.
thing. So, do you see a possibility of AI coming into your washing machine? or let's say your dishwasher or things like that, maybe uh, robotics, AI, and Gen AI
I think
figuring
coming
out
into the
things like that.
kitchen is possible. There's a video that I did see about this robotic sort of assistant that it watches you cook something and then it tries to you know copy and do the same thing, right?
Cook something for with my taste, right? I mean, I like this particular taste or cuisine, or I my spice, right? So that could be one, or maybe even if it is washing clothes, sometimes it is like it's. I mean, the women of the house know, right? I mean, you okay? This is white clothes. These are the clothes that will probably you know give out color, so you have to do not mix these things. I mean, there are so many things that they take care. I mean, sometimes we just go in and dump everything in, and uh, do the course that way, and then you see that all your white shirt has a lot of stains in it from a different color coming in, right? But yeah, this is one interesting thing, how AI can transform things. I don't know how many of you saw the Google I/O video, which is talks about. Let me just play. This is.
Language is a very interesting problem to solve, actually. And given India has a huge variety of languages and it changes every 5 kilometers.
When technology is developed for a particular culture, it won't be able to solve and understand the nuances of a country like India. One of Gemma's features is an incredibly powerful tokenizer, which enables the model to use hundreds of thousands of words, symbols, and characters across so many alphabets and language systems. This large vocabulary is critical to adapting Gemma to power projects like Navrasa.
Navrasa is a model that's trained for Indic languages. It's a fine-tuned model based on Google's Gemma. We built Navrasa to make large language models culturally rooted, where people can talk in their native language and get the responses in their native language. Our biggest dream is to build a model to include everyone from all corners of India.
तो हमें AI को यूज़ करके एक ऐसी टेक्नोलॉजी चाहिए कि कोई भी पीछे ना रहे और हर कोई इसको यूज़ कर सके.
Today, the language that you speak in could be the tool and the technology that you use for solving your real-world problems. And that's the power of generative AI that we want to bring to every corner of India and the entire world.
What do you guys have to say about it? We've been talking about technology being accessible to a lot of people, and language being a barrier. And we have done a lot of work at Pace Wisdom as well, supporting multiple applications and in multilingual support and things like that. But Gen AI, I think, will take things forward.
This is also one of the places where like India is doing approaching this problem very differently than others, right? So a lot of this is also kind of that's a similar approach by the Indian government, the Bashini model, right? Like Azan, like you would have, or Atul, like you would have kind of heard about it, or this thing. So India's kind of thinking about this more like an infrastructure that's needed, right? So as part of the larger initiative, like this is infrastructure that the government or the funded organization is going to provide, so people can essentially build on top of it, right? Just like how roads or railways or the tracks or something like that. This are all infrastructure that takes massive amount of cost to kind of build them. So this is one of those initiatives where India is probably doing it right, where all I think last I checked there were like 16 languages or something like that that's already available. So that's like pretty amazing, right? I mean, unless it was done by in this way, I think there wouldn't be any more. And for anyone else to be interested in like doing something like Kannada or something like that, right? But that's like hardly 6 crore people who actually speak Kannada or something like that, right? So if the target audience is so small for someone else, it's not even worth investing on it. But for India, it makes sense for us to kind of invest on on something like this. I think that's where, if I'm not wrong, some of this is also based on what previous work that's already been done by the Bashing Foundation, right? So yeah, that's essentially like end of the day, the way we consume content is essentially mostly in our native language, right? And language becomes a key connector. It's not only just a medium of communication, but it's also like emotions and relationships and
Yeah.
everything else,
Yeah,
right?
it
So
should not end up being something like, you have a translation engine coming in. Let's say a model which thinks in English builds the whole AI engine thinks in English, or a different context or culture. But when it comes to Hindi, it is just translating. That
No,
shouldn't be
no,
the case. It
no,
should,
no. That's why they're they're
no,
they're building this, Razan. So I think they're natively training it in
yes,
those in those in that script,
languages, yeah, in those
basically, right?
tokens.
In that script, right? So they mentioned the tokenization is happening on the native language, and I think, see, like Mohan said, the need is at large here in India, because like the variety of dialects and languages and all that, and this will really break down the barriers that we have between two people talking in different languages, right? Like some people actually may be really smart in their own language, right? But when they sort of try to talk to someone else in another language, right, they may not be able to put across their points the right way, right? So this could really help that, and I think Indian government taking its own stand and going out to create the infrastructure for this is like, I mean, it's the right thing, and I think government should. I mean, this will help a lot, because I think, I mean, using private companies doing this may not. I mean, they won't have like a motive to do this, right? Because I mean, you preserving culture and stuff is generally not part of their motive, but governments do have the motive of preserving culture and languages and all that. So this clearly aligns with it. So I mean, it'll be supremely helpful.
Making a new one more video where
Your future laptop, your future PC will become an AI. They'll be constantly helping you, assisting you in the background. The PC will also run applications that are enhanced by AI. And your PC will also host applications with digital humans that are AIs.
Digital humans. That was Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang unveiling the company's latest AI.
Nvidia is the company. They are the biggest moat now.
This guy,
So what do you guys
Jensen
have to comment?
Jensen Huang has become like a rock star, like he's like he's like a rock star. I think I saw a photo of him signing somebody's T-shirt also.
Interestingly, I feel this news reader would be replaced. Who's reading the news also will be like a digital human who will be reading news. I saw one article. I think they had appointed a digital. So there are digital influencers who are earning money, right? I mean, it's a digital
Hmm.
creation. They have an Instagram account. They're promoting products. They're giving reviews on products, and these things may happen now. Like you don't need a news reader. Maybe you can just get a digital human being, virtual human, who looks like human and things like that, and never ages, never needs a makeup, never always ready, never tired to give content and generate content on news.
Yeah. So I think a lot of this is happening because, I mean, over the last 2 years with the whole interest rates hiking up and all of that, regardless of that, investment in Gen AI and LLMs have not gone down. It's only increased, right? So of course, since they're the only ones with the capabilities to provide a chip, I think their product cycle also, will be shortened, and with the kind of money flowing in, I think we'll be seeing a new chip. Just like we'll be seeing new models every few months, we'll be seeing a new chip every few months, right?
yeah, like have you heard this Bumble CEO also talking about something very similar? Like you would essentially,
Dating digital
yeah,
humans.
What did she
like
say?
if you're already using AI to kind of write your profile for your Bumble or Tinder or something like that, and then if everyone else are doing that, so it's essentially it's already condensed information, by AI, and you are
So
essentially
your
taking a look at it and
avatars,
then deciding on it.
so your
But
avatars date each other and then come back and tell you, okay, fine, this
yeah,
guy
tell
is
you
good,
that,
this girl
hey, do
is
you
good.
actually have to meet in real life? And then imagine how that would go.
One last video, and I think we'll be done. Probably last.
I do think if we're not careful, I think there's exciting positive possibilities, but there's also negative possibilities of these AI systems like ChatGPT, but later versions, forming deep, meaningful connections with human beings, where most of your friends, no, most of your intimacy in terms of friendships and like a deep connection with an intelligent entity comes from AI systems.
I
Okay.
mean, what more can happen? That's
In
the
in a,
most
in
terrible
in a
thing.
way, he's not wrong, because I think today, I think our phone knows us more than anyone else, right?
Right.
Like, who do you spend more time with than anyone? If your phone had to be a person, right? It's probably your
Right.
phone, right? So now using that data and giving it personality or some sort of intelligence to all the data the phone has access to is that, right?
Okay, so here we come to an exciting end of the episode. Thank you, Mohan. Thank you, Atul, for joining in and giving your ideas, comments on what is happening with the trends of AI. For more such informative and exciting content, do subscribe to Pace Wisdom's YouTube channel. Thank you.